Welcome to the Founders Focus podcast, an open conversation with Techcore founder Gary Beach and those who care about the future of technology. For more than 25 years, Techcore has worked to ensure K through 12th grade students in the United States have equal access to technology programs, skills, and resources that enhance early learning and prepare them for college or career. Founders Focus invites you along for the journey as we examine technology and how it impacts the way we work and live.
Welcome to episode 5 of Founders Focus. We are preparing to host the Techcore Hack on Saturday, November 6th, 2021 in Akron, Columbus, and Zanesville, Ohio. Students from all over the state will come together to learn how to program and build a mobile app in a nurturing and fun environment as they compete for prizes. The students will be asked to brainstorm a need or a problem that needs to be addressed in their community. Then the students will learn how to develop an app to address that need. Today, we are speaking with Kyle Parker, founder of Clipdart. Kyle is a featured speaker at the Techcore Hack. So let's get going. Kyle, how did you identify the need in your community that ultimately led to Clipdart's development?
Yeah, I like to say some of the best businesses come from the worst struggles. And so just going through a situation at college where I was not able to ever find a barber, find a hairstylist that fit my specific cultural needs. And, growing up in such a diverse area in the south side of Chicago, I never had an issue finding a barber. For 18 straight years of my life, this is how I lived. The barbershop was a cultural institution. It was a place where, they hired people who were struggling with homelessness and hunger to sweep the floors. It was a safe haven. They knew this was not a place to have violence. I was just as close to my barber as I was my father. And so that's how I grew up unconsciously for 18 years. And this is how most of my friends grew up as well. And so when I graduated high school, I went to the middle of Iowa and Grinnell College, literally probably 2-3 hours from a big city where I could find somebody that looked like me. And so that's when I realized that there was an issue to solve because our Black and Brown community was dealing with a mental wellness crisis in a sense of not being able to look our best. And so I didn't feel that until it was, my ability to look my best was completely taken away from me while being in rural Iowa. And so I wanted to do something to solve that, to make sure that not only students of color could receive the haircuts and the grooming that they needed, but anybody who was struggling with this, because we all know we might not, as older adults now, we might not care necessarily what we look like every day, but on a college environment, 18 to 21 years old, and you're figuring out who you are, the last thing you want to worry about is your hair. So I wanted to do something just to solve that. So creating an on-demand barber app where barbers travel to you for an affordable rate, while the barbers at the same time changed, the way that they lived. I just saw that, that was a perfect answer to that issue.
You mentioned you don't have a deep technical background, but what helped you decide that developing a mobile app would be the best way to meet your community's needs?
Yeah, I pinpointed on mobile apps just because I got into technology around 2016 and really was interested because of Uber and DoorDash and similar mobile app companies that were finally solidifying their roles in the industry. And I just saw the way the world was working in 2016, which was, I guess I was before my time a little bit, but I saw that things were going mobile. I don't necessarily think people were becoming lazier. It could have become lazier, but I think that also people were becoming more innovative in the sense of the accessibility to get these resources. And so I thought that the most accessible, the easiest, the best way to connect with, millennials at that point was to create something that they felt comfortable with, that they were familiar with. And it was just a user flow that they were used to. And so, and on the barber side, it would make everything easier for how they meet clients, how they get to their clients, how they set up their appointments. I could go on forever about, how it made their barber life easier. And so I just saw these things through a mobile app, and I thought that was the best route to go. But eventually I figured out that and mobile app was just a small part of Clipdart in the grand scheme of things.
Kyle, you mentioned you didn't have a great deal of technology experience. So walk us through your app development process.
Yeah, the app development process, before you get into it, just know it's going to be a very long and taxing and learning process. There's no way to get around it, since it's such a new field for most people, especially for myself, who was studying biology. I had no idea about the app world. I was studying public health. This is why Clipdart is the way it is today as well, but had no idea about anything about the app world, and kind of just dove myself all into it. I think that's the only way to do it. It's an extremely taxing process, something that like I said, you have to learn and you have to fail through. It's really inevitable to get there. And so, what I learned was that building an app is similar to building a skyscraper in a sense. You need an engineer, and you also need, an architect, right? Those jobs are very completely different. I didn't realize that at the time. I thought that people who designed apps could also build apps, but that you learn that the hard way. And learn that they're completely two separate skill sets, completely two separate crafts that need to be looked at completely separately and taken, time. And you can't look at both at the same time. One has to be done before the other. You can't build a building, build a skyscraper before you design it. And so I realized, I had to find a design team, and I had to find, an engineer team in a sense who could, one can build out the user interface, and others could build out the user experience. And so, yeah, to save money in a sense, what I did was I knew that understanding the engineering behind app development would be extremely difficult while I'm in school, while I'm playing professional basketball as well. So I decided to find a team who could help me with that. But I'd also, to go off that, to save money, I decided to learn how to design through Figma, which was a great interface to learn how to design different slides, learn how to design different screens, just learn not only the design aspect, that the user flow has to match that design as well, which is just extremely important. So I would say, I could go on forever about the struggles and trials and tribulations of developing an app, but most thing I would say is just trust yourself. Just trust that, if you put in the hard work and you do everything that you can to understand that world and understand that it's a completely different language, that you'll succeed. But you just have to work your butt off on it, because it's a really difficult industry.
As you put your team together, what were some of the things that helped you unify and inspire your team?
Yeah, the best thing I would say is constant communication and honesty. You don't want to, you want to find a team that you can trust. For example, for myself, our development team is in India. And so if I am not in constant communication, that's where the hard work goes in, because they're 12 and a half hours ahead. So I have to be up at 2 a.m., at 3 a.m. They have to be up, at their time of the day too. So it's really just trusting them. You trusting that these people are not just here to make a check, but they understand your mission, they understand your vision behind your business, and want to do everything they can to push it forward. Because if you have people just working with you who, see your business as just a great idea, rather than wanting to push the mission of it, it makes the app development even more difficult, because you guys don't correlate on what you guys want. It can look different. And when you have different perspectives, more issues pop up and more things happen on your app that you don't want. So constant communication, trusting, and just finding a team that is about your mission.
Kyle, you mentioned your team is from India. How do you go about finding an app development team in that country?
Yeah, like I said before, you have to fail a lot. I think I've worked with, I wouldn't say 100 developers, but hundreds of people throughout my company, and since 2016, people who've saw the wonderful idea behind it, like I said, but weren't there to work. They weren't there to grind on it every single day. And so in terms of finding a team, you're just going to have to just keep looking until you find the right one and trust the process. I've always, there was a time, I'll tell a short story that I like to say, which just, shows everything about Clipdart and who we are in a sense. I remember my first year, I moved to Germany after college to play my first season. dream come true. Finally, I dreamed of this since I was 6 years old to play in a different country. I never wanted to play in the NBA in a sense. I always just wanted to play in Europe and travel the world. And I was finally able to do this. And then first month I was out there, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and they caught it kind of just in time or a little late. And so extremely devastating in a sense, to not be able to fly home, not be able to care for my mother, single mother family. So this is who I grew up with my whole life, and not be able to help her in a sense. And then that following week, I was talking to a developer of completing the app for this was about 3 months now that I was speaking to this developer, and he asked for his first payment. We gave him his first payment after we discussed the plans of everything. First payment of $1,000, and to me, at that time, just graduating college with no money in my pocket, $1,000 is a lot of money. And so paid the developer that, and I never heard from him again. And so that's the personal part about being an entrepreneur, about being a developer, about being, a CEO, that you really have to deal with. You really have to push through and know that, okay, I worked for 3 months with this person and it didn't work out, but now I know what not to look for. Now I know how to be better next time. And you have to think like that. Your mindset, you have to do that in order to be successful in this tech world, because it's very fast moving, very fast paced. And people are always thinking of different ideas. So you can't get stuck, even in some personal issues. It's great to, fight through those things, because you always come stronger on the other side. And so to say all that, that's how you develop a team. That's how you find a team. It's just keep looking, and just knowing that it's going to work out. But you can also go on Upwork.com, freelancer.com. I personally found the people in India because I found a long lost cousin after working for 4 years on Clipdart. I found a long lost cousin who does mobile app development. And they said, hey, I have this team in India who, is the Michael Jordan of app development out there, and they would love to be a part of this. And so that's what I'm saying. It took me 4.5 years to find those people in India. But if I didn't continue to push through all the nonsense that I was going through with the people that I was working with, I would never got the chance to meet them. And so, yeah, that's what I would say.
That's quite a process. And it certainly helps our Techcore students to understand the value of what they're learning at the Techcore Hack as far as programming a mobile app. So I'm curious, how did the barbers you recruited respond to your mobile app technology?
The barber side was a lot. I did a test run in a sense when I was at college, but I didn't have an app. I just asked barbers from big cities to travel to the school to give haircuts at the Black Student Union. And when I did that, it was extremely easy to find the barbers in a sense. So I thought, that's the number one mistake you can make. Being a businessman is thinking rather than going off that, their past experiences. But when I had the app, extremely difficult to find barbers at first, just because it's such a new environment. You're changing people's behavior, and when you're doing that, it takes time. It's not necessarily that they don't like your idea, they don't want to be a part of it, but their behavior has been in the barbershop for years before I was even born. And people's behavior has been going to the barbershop. Just like Uber. People or in Airbnb, Uber, they said, I will never have somebody randomly hop in my car and drive them around. I will never hop in some random person's car. Airbnb, I would never let some random person stay in my house, and I would never stay in some random person's house. That's how we thought. But until we actually used the app, until we actually just, went through with changing our behavior, we saw, oh man, this is a whole nother way of life that we're introduced to in an innovative way. And so it's the same thing, people for years, I'm never going to have a random barber in my house. I'm never going to go in some random person's house and give them a haircut. But until they actually did it, until we pushed them and said, this is something that it's going to help you. It's not going to help Clipdart. It's going to benefit you and give you, a different outlook on life. When they're connecting with our mission, it's much easier for them to go ahead and try the app. Now, if we just came to them, hey, you're going to make this amount of money, you're going to do this, financially, this financially, I don't think they would have used it. That's why at the beginning it was difficult for us to get barbers to use the app, because we just talked about financials rather about our mission of improving mental wellness around the world through them, and revolutionizing the perspective of what they mean to a community. So until we started to explain it in that way, they weren't really using the app, because it's the technology world is it's really new to the barbershop world. They haven't really collided in ways like other industries have. It's been a very grandfather, grandmother type of shop for forever now. And so to break into that industry and try to do something to revolutionize it always takes time. But we're on a great path.
It seems like since the pandemic, there has been a paradigm shift in the way people think about service providers. What do you see ahead for Clipdart as an on-demand barber app and beyond?
Yeah, wonderful question. Yeah, I love to tell this story. So in 2016, obviously I started, and from 2016 into our launch date of the app, Clipdart was just an on-demand barber app at that point. From 2016 to our launch date in March of 2020. And that was literally the first month of the pandemic. So that was even devastating in the sense to work on an app, learn the industry, like I said, learn not only the app and tech world, I had to learn the barber industry as well, and learn how to, do everything we can to make sure that they're okay as well, because we want everybody to win in a sense. And so studied that for 4 years, along with public health, along with biology, along with playing professional basketball abroad, away from family, so did that for 4 years. We're supposed to launch in March of 2020, and we couldn't, because the pandemic that was the first month when it was very, very new. It's not like it is now. People had no idea. Even the best doctors in the world had no idea what was going on. So people were definitely not going to allow random people in their house. And so it was devastating just to work on that for that long. But at the same time, it took us to take a step back, just like everybody. We had a time to sit back and breathe and think about things. And so we thought, it became a blessing in disguise because we revamped our entire mission. Now we realize at that point in time, we didn't create Clipdart to create an app. Clipdart is not a business. There's no such thing as a business. It's a reflection of my morals and values, right? And so in a sense, I started Clipdart to improve the mental wellness of people around the world, like I said, through barbers, through hairstylists, and revolutionize that perspective of what they mean to your community. So an app, that's just one way that we can, answer that mission. What if you're not into technology? What if you don't like apps? You don't trust apps? What if you don't even have a phone? How do we still service you? And so that's when we start to get creative. And our, Clipdart really started growing, and that's even, how you guys heard of us. We started to partner with businesses like universities, like a school that I went to in the middle of nowhere, and we partner by bringing barbers from the big city. And the school understands how important it is for their diversity, their equity, their inclusion, their retention rate. I transferred after 3 years. I could have stayed one more year and graduated. Mom was doing backflips when I told her I wanted to leave after one more year, but I just felt like I didn't get a college experience because my culture wasn't included enough. And so now we find schools like I went to, who are students of color, staff of color, faculty of color, or, people who are not of color, who are in the working poor, are struggling to look their best. We bring a barber from a big city. The school pays for it, so it makes it free for the students, for the faculty, for the staff. So they get free haircuts from a vetted, licensed, one of the best barbers in the area, barbers who cut the NBA teams, barbers who cut, musicians of anything that you can imagine. We find the top of the top, and we do that because they're pillars in their community. It's not about money for them. It's really about going to that school and improving mental wellness. And so now, students who are struggling like me are having one of the best barbers in their area come to them for free. And so we do this at hospitals. We do this for their workers, because we know how much of a mental wellness pick-me-up they need, everything they're going through COVID. So get them free haircuts. We do this at nursing homes, retirement homes, active adult villages, to help with the older generation, everything that they've been through COVID. We do this got outside of my own comfort zone and started to partner with police stations and law enforcement to have barbers of color give haircuts to law enforcement to bridge that gap, have conversation, give them free haircuts from some of the best barbers in their area, so they can build that community and build that trust back. Started partnering with conventions, events, and official barber sponsor of the biggest Black nerd convention, because it's an outlook space and an outcasted type of space, and so we go there, improve their mental wellness through haircuts. We're looking to partner with different like USA weightlifting and things like that to follow their athletes, make sure they look great before they perform, because I knew that was an issue when I was at my school. Just seeing somebody across the court from me who was looking great, it just took a hit on my confidence a little bit. And so I wanted to get into the sports world to help people look their best before their games as well. And so, yeah, we started to do that from the time that COVID happened, and things just kept building, and that became one of the fastest growing, or if not the fastest growing part of Clipdart. And that was just because we decided to realize that's another part of our mission. And then the last thing I'll say is that most importantly, we did, I talked with our team and I said, okay, we have this app. It was great for the general public, which will probably be in the bigger cities, which because it just makes sense. Then we have these business partnerships where we're helping people really all around the world who are struggling to get a haircut in situations where it's difficult. But we're missing the most important people. These are people who can't mentally, physically, emotionally go into a shop. These are our neighbors in need. These are people struggling with homelessness, people struggling with hunger. How do we still service them? They're not going to use our app. They're not a part of a business, but we still have a mission to be served. So if there's a problem, there's an answer. And so what we decided to do was partner with nonprofits. We have around 50 nonprofit partners all around the world, all this United Kingdom, dedicated to pushing the fact that it's you look your best, you feel your best, you perform your best. I've noticed a lot of times with human service organizations and nonprofits, they think it's just you feel your best, you perform your best. But a lot of times people want to look their best too. We just don't necessarily think about it because a lot of us has a great access to it. And so this is the concept that we bring to the nonprofits, to the human service organizations. We say, hey, we want to line up 15, 20 barbers on a day that you have a food drive, a clothing drive, or whatever you have. And we just want to see if we're essential. Food and clothes are essential, and water is essential, showering and things of that nature. But this is our litmus test. We want to determine if we're, in the right business. And so we lined up 20 barbers for our first event in December of 2020, when things finally let up a little bit. And we sat out there for 4 hours and gave 150 haircuts. And so it wasn't the app, it wasn't these business partnerships. That was the moment in time for Clipdart that we realized, oh man, we have something here. Because we asked our neighbors in need, why did you get a haircut? We know why you got the food, we know why you got the clothes and the water, but why did you get a haircut? And 100% of them said, you might helped us remind us of somebody when we look in the mirror, somebody that we recognize, somebody who had a relationship with a barber or a hairstylist at one point, and had that familiar connection in that family feel, brought that back to them, which is very important. But most importantly, barbers and hairstylists are some of the best listeners that we know. And so they sit there 40, 45 minutes, have a conversation, humanize the experience, and that makes them feel a part of the community, And so we took that aspect of that community talk, that barbershop experience, that just feeling, of not only the client building their confidence, but the barber as well, of just, conversation. We take that aspect and we put it into the app. We take that aspect, we put it into the business partnerships, because that's the most important part, if our neighbors in need say that. And so, yeah, we do these, we did this, we put that at the forefront of Clipdart, those give back experiences, and they've been the most impactful, aspect of our business.
It's exciting to hear how in tune you are with your community and how you've evolved from a mobile app into so much more. I think what you have started with and where you are now, you probably could have never projected. But what kind of support system did you have to help you on this journey?
Yeah, first thing I have to say, just have to have a support system of some sense, of not people just telling you that you can do it, just people being honest with you. You come to them and say, hey, I came to my family, I came to my support system, and I said, hey, I think I have an issue that is a worldwide issue. I did some surveys around campus, and I see other students of color are struggling with this. And it might not necessarily be a mental health crisis, but it is a mental wellness crisis, around the world, where people can't look their best. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I feel like this is my destiny to make sure that people around the world don't have to feel like what I felt like being, in that school in the middle of nowhere. And so, yeah, I kind of just put everything I had into it. I'm the type of person to get outside of my comfort zone. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, it's not just about being open. You have to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable. You have to get out. You have to purposely do everything that you can to get outside of your comfort zone, because things like that then start to feel comfortable. And so the more I just kept studying about the app industry and the app world, the more I kept learning about barbers, the more I kept learning about that this issue it's worldwide. I became more passionate about my craft. And so that's just how, my mother is raised her two boys, is to, find your passion and run, to the wind towards it with no hesitation, because everybody has a different passion. Everybody has a different destiny. If you're always going to look for somebody else to help you start something, you're never going to start it. So just, if you're interested and passionate about an issue and you see a mobile app can answer that, you have to do it. And that's just how I felt.
Kyle, you mentioned your brother. How is he involved in this process with you?
Yeah, extremely. He's been, man, my rock, along with my mother, through this process. He's, it might seem small, but things like photography, things like media, he's just done for me for free. And he's extremely talented with everything that he does in terms of videography and photography and social media and things like that. And he's done it for me willingly, since the start, since I could remember. So he's been, and it's not just the physical things that he does for me. Being an entrepreneur, you have to have your mental mind state on par. You have your mental IQ, your EQ, your emotional intelligence has to be extremely high. And so to have somebody like my brother, who has a strong emotional intelligence as well, to learn from him, man, I can go on all about my brother, but his advice has been really invaluable, in a sense.
It sounds like the support of those you trust is very important. I'm sure you received lots of advice in this process, but how do you separate and follow the best advice from all of it?
I like to say one of my favorite quotes is, don't take advice from somebody you want to take criticism from, and don't take criticism from somebody you want to take advice from. So through this process, I've had probably 1 million people tell me what I should do with the app, but they've never studied the barber world. They've never been through the process that I've been through since 2016, and really all these late nights. And I think I really get 3 hours, 4 hours of sleep per day, and so I say that to say, I'm going to trust yourself, trust everything that you've done and all the work that you put in. You can go to people I wouldn't say go to them for answers, but go to them for advice, go to them for wisdom. But take the pieces that you want to take, because if you take everything from everybody, you'll get mentally drained, developing an app, so you really want to take the pieces that are most comfortable for you and just move on. It could be, even family that you got to shut out sometimes. What's best for your app because you're passionate about it. And nobody's going to see your business. Nobody's going to see your app the way that you see it. So some people might not work as hard as you want to, that you want them to on the app, but you have to be okay with that. You cannot take, in this tech world, you cannot take things personal. If somebody doesn't want to use your app, somebody doesn't want to look at it, what I like to tell our team is, I believe, I hope I'm saying this correctly. I think when I read in the book, there's around 13.5% of the world of people who are just wired to do something because they love it. Now, there's around 60% of the world who aren't going to do something unless somebody else does it first. That's just how they're wired. There's just nothing against you. It's nothing personal. So if somebody doesn't want to use your app because somebody else uses it, you cannot take that personal or you'll drive yourself crazy. You have to find that 13.5% of the world who are just going to agree with your mission, try your app out. And then guess what? They're going to tell other people. And that's how you get to that 60%. You as a mobile app developer yourself or entrepreneur yourself, you can't get to that 60%. They're just not going to listen to you. You just can't take it personal. You have to have somebody funnel it, and so that's the advice that I would give them. Just don't take things personal and take the parts of advice and wisdom that are important to you and trust yourself. Super, super important.
Kyle, what are your future plans for the Clipdart mobile app?
Our plans, we had our pre-launch at Arizona State University, which we did that because we wanted to test ourselves to see what type of market would pop up. They have great access to barbers and hairstylists in Phoenix, but it's still a need, we believe. And so we did our pre-launch on the app, not necessarily a business partnership with Arizona State, but did our pre-launch there. And 80% of the students who use the app were from India. So, we found something else. Okay. It might not be necessarily, Black students who are struggling at all these schools, but it could be the international students, people who, in all honesty, can afford to go into the cities. Most of them go into the cities and pay for a haircut, but we talked to these students, they said they just didn't feel comfortable doing that. And so our goal next is we took all the information, all the advice, all the feedback, good or bad, from our pre-launch, and now we're in that development process of cleaning everything up, sharpening out, the app before we have the official launch in about a couple months. And so we want to. Another important thing too is when you launch your app, you want to do it in one spot, right? You don't want to have all your focus across the world because not everybody. I don't care how good you think your app is, it's just not a good business strategy to release it to the whole world. So our focus is just to really develop it in the Phoenix market, really speak with the Indian students at ASU to see if they would continue to use it and how we can best move forward in the Phoenix area, grow it out in Phoenix, grow it out in Tucson, and then go to those bigger cities like Chicago, like, Dayton, Ohio, maybe, things in random cities like that we can move forward in.
How do you draw income from your app?
Great question. So we kind of hinted on it before. So there's three pillars that we call them: our app, our business partnerships, and our give back experiences. And so the way we make money is through our app and our business partnerships. So with the app, every transaction, we take 20%, similar to Uber, similar to DoorDash. Took that same type of model because we've seen it work really, really well. And so simple for that. Business partnerships, same type of thing. For the first 30 days, Clipdart doesn't make anything. We just want them to fully pay the barber and build a relationship with the barber and build a relationship with us, trust us. We're new to this world and really want to build a relationship. So for the first 30 days, 100% of the funds go to the barber. But after 30 days, we add a 20%. So we don't take anything from the barber. We add a 20%. And so that's where we get our profit from to put right back into the business, to the partnerships. And then what we're doing, lastly, we don't make money for the give back events. We actually lose money at these give back events, but they're at the forefront of our business because we just know how important, impactful they are to our mission. And so what we plan to do is open up a 501(c)(3) separate for that part of our business and make it a nonprofit, just like kind of McDonald's has the Ronald McDonald Foundation. So it would be like the Clipdart Give Back, which would be a separate nonprofit.
Kyle Parker, app developer, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and founder of Clipdart. You're an amazing young man with an incredible future ahead of you. Thank you so much for speaking with us today and sharing your story with our audience at the Techcore Hack. For the Founders Focus podcast, I'm Gary Beach, Vice Chair and founder of Techcore. Thanks for joining us.